Hey everyone, welcome to Plants and Politics. So it looks like it's coming. They're releasing the Kraken. It's being unleashed finally. Problem is, it's being unleashed on Trump's nutcase attorneys. So this is so great. I don't know if you guys know, but Sidney Powell and Lynn Wood, they all were in court today. They had to appear virtually, I should say, because they and their co-counsel were referred for potential sanctions for the BS that they pulled in regard to Trump's election loss lies and all of these cases that they filed. Well, U.S. District Judge Linda Parker, she's overseeing that case, and she could make a recommendation of disbarment. That's within her authority to make that recommendation. She just called them out today in court. In the first almost marathon hearing, I shouldn't say marathon, but it was quite long. It was hours long before she even took a break, and then they had to come back. But Judge Parker said, quote, "The court is concerned that these affidavits were submitted in bad faith." So she's saying this to Wood and Powell and the others, that, yeah, maybe you didn't submit these documents and these affidavits because you actually believed in them. And that's really the question here, at least I believe, in the judge's mind, because if they submitted these documents and cases, these lawsuits, with the belief that what they were saying was real, then, and they had good reason to believe that they were real, I think the judge would allow them off with maybe a slap on the wrist or nothing. But Judge Parker seems to be done with these people. She just seems to be done with these attorneys. I mean, and I'm not talking about the regular kind of done. I'm talking DON, ain't got time or patience to buy a vowel for the E. That kind of done, like when you are just finished. So she told the attorneys that one of their affidavits was based on, quote, levels of hearsay. And then at another point, she said, quote, "I don't think I've ever seen an affidavit that makes so many leaps. This is really fantastical. So my question to counsel here is, how could any of you, as officers of the court, present this affidavit?" That's how out there she thinks these affidavits were. And I'll explain why in a minute. The judge also accused them of failing to do their due diligence and to even try to determine if any of these allegations were real, any of these allegations of election fraud. And she said that, quote, she had heard nothing to suggest that Powell, Wood, and the others had done even the, quote, minimal duty that any attorney has in presenting a sworn affidavit. So they looked at it and they just submitted it. They didn't do anything. They didn't lift a finger to discover who these people were making these allegations or what was in the allegation, whether or not it was true or false. And she, of course, is referring to affidavits from so-called witnesses or people who supposedly had information that proved in their mind that the election was rigged. So this is the same judge who just last week handed down a ruling in anticipation of this hearing today in regard to some of these so-called witnesses, because Powell had previously requested that their names be kept hidden, that they remain under seal. She said that she needed to protect them from harm. Well, the judge denied that request. The judge last week said that Powell basically was speculating on what, if any, harm they could face. And here's the thing. You've got election officials all over the country. You've got secretaries of state. You've got other elected officials literally facing death threats. Their family members are facing death threats. You have people threatening to do horrific things to them and their family, but yet these witnesses want to remain confidential. They want to remain incognito. How is that fair? And why? If they're so sure of what they're saying, if they are so secure in their allegations of election fraud, wouldn't they want the world to know who they are and that they were the one that saved democracy? I don't know. And here's the thing. 2 out of the 3 that Sidney Powell wanted to protect, they've already been outed by the media. So there's already reports out there, and it became clear why she and they wanted to keep their identities secret. It's because they lied. It's because they lied about their credentials, and one of them is actually a proven in a court of law grifter. So, like, here, Joshua Merritt is one of these so-called witnesses. He was considered an expert witness, and he was referred to in Powell's filings under the code name of Spider. You guys may remember that. I did a whole show on it. Spider with a Y. Ooh. So, different kind of spider. But she said that Spider was a military intelligence expert in the court filings. And then it came out, the truth is that this Merritt guy was a mechanic. Yeah, he was in the Army, but he was a mechanic in the Army. He never actually worked in intelligence. He did start a military intelligence training program, but he didn't finish it. According to the official records, he dropped out. He either dropped out or they kicked him out or something, but he never completed it. He never got his actual credentials. And he never worked. I mean, even if he did get his credentials, he never worked in intelligence. And then the second witness that I have already talked about at length on this show, she was outed as, and I'm probably going to butcher her name again, but Terpsichore Maris Lindemann, I think is how you say it. She goes by the name of Tori, and she hosts a pro-Trump show on Twitch, like total right-wing BS on Twitch. If her name sounds familiar, like I said, it's because I've talked about her before. She's the witness that Powell touted as an intelligence contractor. And she also has this online bio on some military website or something. And it's something that the military doesn't fill it out. It's just like random people in the public can enter their name and say where they served, how they served, what part of the military they were in, so forth. Well, in her profile on this military site, which she claims she didn't create, I don't know who's going to go create a web page for her on this site, but she says she didn't do it. On this page, it says that she's a Purple Heart recipient and that she served in multiple active war zones. All of it was bullshit. In reality, she spent less than 1 year in the Navy, like over a decade ago or something like that. Long time ago. And then more recently, she was prosecuted and found guilty of ripping off North Dakota residents. She promoted this fake Christmas fundraiser that was supposedly going to fund veterans and homeless shelters or something like that. All of it was a bunch of BS. She ended up using the money herself. She was buying herself food, buying herself things for her home or whatever, and they found her guilty, and she owes a bunch of money for it. So all the best people, right? Yeah. So what's really funny about today's hearing, though, is how Looney Linwood and some of these other attorneys, they're trying to distance themselves from these lawsuits. And they're throwing Sidney Powell under the bus. So numerous times during this hearing today, Wood made sure to point out that he had nothing to do with any of the documents submitted to the court. He had nothing to do with this lawsuit in Detroit. At one point, without provocation even, he said, quote, "I played absolutely no role in the drafting of the complaint." Then later in the hearing, again, without provocation, he popped off and he said, quote, I did not review any of the documents with respect to the complaint. I just had no involvement in it whatsoever. And then just to make sure that he stuck that knife all the way in to Powell's back and twisted it, he said that basically he was just there for support. He told the judge that he had no idea his name was going to be listed on this complaint. And he said that, quote, if she needed my help, I would help her from a trial lawyer standpoint. So not that he meant to be involved or anything, and not that this was his lawsuit. He just was there to assist if she needed help, because she didn't know what she was doing. And so, yeah, I was there, as a friend, really. So luckily, the lawyer for the city of Detroit, David Fink, he called Wood out on this BS and this moonwalk. And he said that basically you benefited from it when it boosted your profile, or when, you wanted to take credit for it. And if it helped you, you were willing to put your name on it and say, oh, I'm filing a lawsuit and this is my lawsuit. But now, he just is like I said, beep, beep, just backing up, trying to get away from it. And then Powell returned the favor. So she wasn't going to let this knife in the back slide. She tried to throw Wood under the bus. She told the judge that she would have never added his name to the complaint without his authorization. But then she did concede that, well, maybe there could have been a misunderstanding. And then another attorney tried to claim little to no involvement as well. Her name is Emily Newman. She was listed as a co-counsel in this election fraud lawsuit. And she's also, by the way, an ex-staffer from the Trump administration. So Newman's attorney tried to minimize her exposure. He said, well, Your Honor, she only spent 5 hours working on this. I wonder how many tens of thousands of dollars Miss Newman received for her only 5 hours of work. That'd be interesting. So here's where they left it. The attorney for the city of Detroit is asking the judge to order the defendants to first reimburse taxpayers for the costs incurred. And then he also asked the judge to refer the case to the Eastern District of Michigan for possible disbarment in that state. So they would just be disbarred. They would be, prevented, disallowed from practicing law in the state of Michigan. And Judge Parker has given Powell, Wood, and all the others 2 weeks to file any supplemental briefings. However, Wood and Powell and all them, they're asking the judge to hold additional hearings. They say that they want new hearings to present evidence, and they want to be able to call witnesses who filed these affidavits. So we'll have to see if the judge agrees to that. I would imagine these witnesses, they've got to be nervous about that because they know they're full of it. They know that what they said was just gossip, or maybe they even flat out lied. So, I was just wondering, are they going to pick up and move to another country like that fake candidate from Florida did? I mean, are they all going to go live in Sweden or wherever the hell she is? But either way, Powell and Wood are facing additional sanctions. So there's, the potential for disbarment in other areas. In one other state, I know for sure. I know Wood is facing disbarment potentially in Georgia, which was his home state, because he's refusing to take that mental health evaluation and all this other stuff going on. And then Powell may be in really, really deep shit in these defamation lawsuits because, remember, she's involved or named in the Dominion case, and then also Smartmatic. They've both filed lawsuits against her. And as I said with Rudy Giuliani last week, all of this, everything that happened in this hearing today, everything that was said, everything she said, everything the judge says, how the judge rules, this is going to be used against her in this defamation case, or in these defamation cases, I should say. Womp womp and thoughts and prayers. Wow. Thinking of you. Thinking of you. All right, guys. So anyway, as always, please like, share, subscribe, head down to the description box, become a friend or supporter of the show if you can. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Take care, and I'll talk with you soon.